Hey there, my friends, welcome back. So in this video, what I want to talk to you about is the if I do this, will you do that framework. Now, the if I do this, will you do that framework is super important in your career. I mean, it's super important in everything we do because it's the primary function that we use when we're intentional about it to really shorten sales timelines, right? Shorten timelines for anything. So here's the premise, and here's kind of why this holistically is going to help you. When you think about it like this, we make so many calls, we send so many emails, that the time that we have, like really when we think about it, the preciousness that comes with connecting with you directly. Like when you're making phone calls, and let's just focus on phone calls here for a minute. When I'm making a phone call and I'm pumping out 20, 30, 40 sales calls a day, and I connect with 3, 4, or 5 people, I mean, the connection rate on sales calls is so low, right? When we get the prospect on the phone, it is so important, if this is your sales timeline, that you jump. You know, in the last video, when we really dug into that intention piece, I jumped through this briefly at the bottom of the chart, right? This video is going to focus on it intently because this framework helps you jump. It literally helps you catapult. Not only that, it keeps you scheduled and it keeps you on track. You see, one of the things remember what we talked about when we were talking about how do we develop our skill and what are some of the major things we use when we're developing our skill? It's tracking. We cannot track which part of our sales system is truly working unless we schedule it. What I mean by that is this. You know, you make a phone call, you get on a call. The second, and here's kind of the strategy that I want you to think through for this for a second, okay, before we get into the framework. The reality is that once I make contact, and here's the thought pattern. Once you make contact, everything else is scheduled. Everything. There's never any question about when do we reconnect? What is the next steps? What are we doing here forward? How do we do it? How do we fulfill it? None of that. With the if I do this, will you do that framework? It eliminates all of that because when we want to really move our sales cycle faster, when we really want to move through our sales cycle faster, when we want to move through our sales cycle with a little bit more oomph, when we want to move through our sales cycle with ease, with structure, with strategy, with real intent, we have to use if I do this, will you do that formula. Now, here's how it works. Say you're on a call and you decide that you're going to come up with capacity and numbers, okay? Mr. Prospect, if I get you these numbers by tomorrow at 9 a.m., will you have an opportunity to review them by the next day? So if it's on Monday, by Tuesday at 9 a.m., will you have an opportunity to review them by Wednesday at 9 a.m.? No, my days are this. Okay, what about Wednesday at like 4 p.m. or would it be better Thursday at 9 a.m.? No, it'll be better Thursday at 9 a.m. Okay, now what you've done, see strategically what you've done. You know you have a follow-up Thursday at 9 a.m. You know you have a deadline to get the rates out, so you're intentional about when you're going to deliver them. You're intentional about when you're calling back. Okay, Mr. Prospect, perfect. So I'm going to send them to you. When I get these to you, so if I do this at 9 a.m. tomorrow, will you please give me an answer as to kind of like where we're at? Are we good? Are we bad? And where we are? Okay. So again, same framework in the same call, just a different context to it, and you're just stacking the goals, stacking the objectives, stacking what's happening next. Because again, remember intention, the goal, what I have, what I need, what are the next steps. You achieve these with the if I do this, will you do that framework. You achieve all 4 of those, or 3 of those steps with the if I do this, will you do that. So you know when you hang up the phone, you have till 9 a.m. And I'll give you a kind of a bigger ninja secret. Depending on where you are at in the 28-day high performance sales challenge, you would have heard this secret. The strategy and the process for all of this is you get the rates done and you deliver them in the calendar invite. This is super important. So you don't send the calendar invite, you get the rates inside the calendar invite. So they have to open the calendar invite to get the rates. And you tell them, okay, I'm going to get the rates done for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the rates inside the calendar invite. So when you see that invite come across, it's super important that you open it because that's going to be all the numbers we're going to talk about. And you're sharing that. So if I do this, send you the rates inside the calendar invite, You're going to please need to open it. Will you please open it and accept the invite? Now, here's some psychology when it comes to the psychology behind this. When we have something scheduled, if the individual doesn't show up, it immediately transitions our brains as humans to say, I owe you. If you schedule a meeting with me and I either don't show up or I have to change it, because psychologically it's in my calendar, it's set, I owe you. And let me share a story with you, because this is, sorry, I got some dog hair on me from my puppy. This is the reality of it. Every Sunday, I sit down and I review my week. And I push meetings all the time. And every time I push it, even though I know it's not a priority for me, it's turned into a non-priority for me this week. So I'll book meetings 3-4 weeks out. But as that 3-4 week progresses, and we're going to get into this in a little bit more in module 2, but as that 3-4 weeks progress out, things change. My priorities change, as yours probably do as well, as your prospects do as well. And think about this for a second. So you have a meeting set with your prospect, call it hypothetically 48 hours from now. In that 48 hours, a part of his supply chain completely breaks down. Do you think, one, you trump your bigger priority than that part of his supply chain breaking down? If he hasn't fixed it by the time it comes around to your meeting now becomes below that priority. However, because it's in his calendar or her calendar, the brain part, the psychological part, the human part of us said, damn, I had this meeting set. I owe this person. Okay. Next, that's if they have to move. So you'll always get emails like, I'm really sorry I had to move the appointment. I received your rates. Is it possible we can move? No problem. Schedule, like before that email chain stops, before that conversation ends, it's imperative to schedule it for the next time. Always schedule. Like literally everything you do from this point forward, if you make connection from this point forward, everything's scheduled. There's no question about when you have to follow up, what you have to follow up on, and what the next steps are. Those 3 things right after you make contact are imperative for you to get to the next level, are imperative if you truly want to get to the 2 Comma Club. It must happen every single time without fail. And that's where this framework comes in. So let's say this one here is your actual first phone call. Okay. So this is the first phone call that you make. Now, from this call, you're going to say if, so A, qualified, everything lines up, right? If I do and give you X product or X information, X, Y, will you do X? This can follow in a multitude of ways. If I get you capacity, numbers, and guaranteed service, will you have a look at them? Okay. If I get you the proposal, will you have a chance to completely review it? If I get you the detention charges, will you approve them by? If I get, and you see how we can go every single level of this, right? If I get you a connection to a customs broker, will you fill the paperwork out within 48 hours? If I get you a credit app, will you get it back to me in the next day? If I do this, will you do that? Now, what happens is when we use this pattern, and I'm sure you're going to see what I'm going to do here. So if I do this, will you do that? Okay. Let's say if I get you the volume and everything like that, will you please have a look at it and be prepared to talk about it? Now, on the top side here, we're just going to use, the general kind of the average general sales rep, right? They make a call, they connect. Great. Sure, I'll get you some rates today. Then what happens in this process, they make another call. Then they make another call. Then they make another call. And I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this, getting a little messy on my drawings, right? And then when they connect here, which really is from a timeline perspective, they should be almost on step 3. But when they connect here, the prospect says, huh? Who are you again? Oh, yeah, I haven't had a chance to look. So what happens? They now go right back to the beginning. Okay, do you want me to email them to you again? And this is just a perpetual motion until you happen to catch them here, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna go from here and we're gonna jump all the way to here. Because when we get to this call, we're gonna know if the numbers are good. We're gonna know our percentage that we're gonna go either up or down. We're gonna know what we're gonna need. And we've got it locked in, right? So you think of the difference psychologically, like just from your productive output, from how you produce your, like how you move through your sales cycle, how you produce, turn prospects into customers, how you do everything revolves around if I do this, will you do that? Unconsciously, you've been using this framework for a lot of your things, except if you've operated on this, you've leaving it to chance. See, if I do this, will you do that framework leaves nothing to chance. Nothing to chance. You are in control of everything. As a sales rep, as the individual that's going to benefit or lose from using your time to speak to somebody. All right, let's look at this for a second. Let's take out of the equation that the professional sales reps helps customers achieve goals. Let's just pull that out for just 1 second. What I'm talking about here is the fact that every second you use that's not scheduled, that's not marshaled towards your next level goal, doesn't have intention, that doesn't have drive, you waste. And as a commission salesperson, every second you waste is a second you're not paid for. That's fact. So if you're wasting half your day, imagine what you could do when you double your output. Okay, so keep going here. I want you to keep following. So now what happened is we've lost this whole step in between and we moved ourselves to this step. In this step, you already know before you connect here. So if this is, if you're working like a calendar kind of thing and this is before you connect, and this is the date to connect, before this date exactly what you want this far down the road. So exactly, because what are we doing, right? What do you need next? The intention model, the intention framework. What do you need next? So you've already established my numbers. I understand where they are. I understand where I can go up and down. I've got the date locked in. Before that meeting, you're going to say, my next step here is going to be X, Y, Z, which then is going to lead to the next logical step, which is your goal, closing the deal. Okay? So you are always, always, always in your sales 2 to 3 steps ahead. Right? Let's go back for a second because I really want you to understand this. In this call, when you go over the rates, you've preset what's called the frame for the conversation. You've set the intention. We are going to go over rates. I'd really like you to tell me high, low areas. You are going to have the numbers that you can use or where you're comfortable with. So you're going to say, okay, I've got, $1,000 is the cost, let's say. So I've put $250 on it. I'm willing to go, because I got a great relationship with my supplier, I'm willing to go to $100. So I'm willing to knock $150 off. Now, we will get to the conversation on how you're able to remove $150, okay? So that's my bottom line. Like if I make $100 a load, I know it's going to one person, I can make that work. So you have the conversation and they say, you know what, you're $50 too high. Your immediate response is, Mr. Prospect, I can make that work. I've got a good enough relationship. I mean, listen, I got $75 on it. Everybody's got to make money. I'll drop 25. I know my supplier will drop 25. We've got a great relationship. We can make that work. See, if you don't have this, then what you're doing is you're back up here and you're going from here to here because now you have to reissue rates. And then it's possible that you're going to be going through the whole call again, right? Like, and then you're going to be doing that revert back, right? So every time we don't follow the pro way, if I do this, will you do that way? We run the risk of leaving our greatness, we leave our productivity, we leave our production, we leave our income to chance. We really do. Because who's to say you're going to get a hold of that person all the way down here? And then they're going to say, damn, you know what? I forgot about you. Now you've moved all the way back here. So you see, when you're moving through your sales timeline, you have to move through with that intention model. but every single thing you do, if I do this, will you do that? When I first started teaching this model, see, for probably 5 years, I unconsciously worked on this model. And then one day I got sidetracked and I kind of fell on this model. This isn't something I sat down and I critically thought about, but when I started deploying it with intention, I mean, things changed so rapidly. I actually totally lost track and I didn't send the initial invite when I hung up the phone. And the next morning I was like, oh my God, it's like 9 o'clock. So I sent the invite and I put the stuff in it. The invite got accepted. And the next time I spoke to them the next day, the prospect was like, you don't understand how awesome that was to actually get the invite and then the attachments are saved. Because when we got on the call, I said, okay, so do you have a chance? He goes, I did. He goes, let me find the email. And I said, well, actually, I sent them in the invite. You might be able to just pull up. And he goes, oh my God, how awesome is that? So I tried it again and same thing. The guy was like, sure, let me just pull up the invite. You know, putting your stuff in the invite is so awesome because when I have the invite in front of me, I just pull everything up and it's fresh on my computer. It's kind of like sending them an email with what you want to talk about 5 minutes before the call, knowing they're going to check their email, right? Because we always go into our invites. Okay, what's this about? Yeah, okay, you know, and professionals, people that don't want to waste their time, people that truly want long-term productivity will always be on top of what's important, what's not. And even up to 10 minutes before that meeting, they'll be checking your invite to say, this is important or it isn't, right? Now, that's the, if I do this, will you do that framework. The framework is the same. Some of the things I say are different. So make sure you go back to the 28-day high performance sales challenge. Watch that video as well, because I'm going to say different things. As I said, the framework's the same. The conversation, the stories and everything change. But I'll tell you, every single student that uses this, every single person I've taught that actually uses it has doubled, tripled their output, has doubled sales, and has had so much more productivity. The connection, the lost in your sales timeline gets eliminated. I mean, even to the point where you say, okay, if I do this, will you do that? And they say, can't do it here, but I can do it here. Even if it's 7 days later, they understand you have a date, right? You have a date. And in the next video, I'm going to give you a video that I've done where it's called follow-up between follow-up. So if you ever are here, okay, ever, and the prospect says, this is when I need to call back, and it's longer than 5 days, I want you to follow the if I do this, will you do that framework. It's going to be very important. So that will be the next video. Then we'll get into messaging and that kind of stuff with the right message, right person and all that jazz. But right now, really focus on this. Figure this out for your sales strategy. Figure it out for your sales timelines. Figure it out for what you want to do. If you're like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday sales, Tuesday, Thursday marketing, whatever your schedule is right now, you know, when we get to the module on high performance scheduling, I think it's probably going to change a lot of things for you, but all of this is involved in it. So all of these frameworks are a sequential step-by-step building each as you go. You know, in the last module or in the last videos when we talked about mastering the skills, you know, a lot of it was that step. If you looked in your workbook, you see the value ladder, you know, the skill set value ladder, mindset, skill set value ladder. That's how you go. And the top of that ladder is a 2 comma club. So it's where you are, you know, how are we going to grow? How are we going to exponentially? And what do we need next? And it continues. It's the same thing. This is where we are. What do we need next? After that, what's the next step? So you're always, if you're here, you're actually operating here. And when you're here, you're operating over here. And that's what's going to keep you ahead of all the change curve. That's what's going to keep you ahead. That's what's going to help you shorten those sales timelines and create so much more productivity that it's literally going to blow your mind. And remember what we said right at the beginning, the core concept, motion creates emotion. When we're moving forward, we start loving our job, our career, actually. Sorry, not a job, it's a career. We start loving what we do. We come into work fired up to get things going. And think of how awesome it's going to be when you open up your agenda and you got, man, I got 7 scheduled appointments today that are going to rocket. Think of that, like just inside of me when I say it, I get all, yeah. Like think of that for a second. How awesome it would be to know every day of the week you got 4, 5, 6 scheduled appointments with an objective, with a mission to make it happen. That's next level sales.